The Liberal government is getting tough on crime. Prime Minister Mark Carney announcing sweeping changes to the bail system today.
Now, those changes include tougher penalties for organized crime and consecutive sentences, so those who are convicted of multiple crimes could spend more time in jail, but not everyone's happy with the proposed changes. Emily Taylor joining us live in studio this evening with all the details. Emily.
Matt, as the legislation will be in front of the House of Commons next week, and in the meantime, civil liberties groups are hoping to change the Prime Minister's mind. They say his bail reform isn't grounded in the numbers and that there's no evidence that bail increases crimes.
We're getting violent criminals and repeat offenders off the streets, full stop.
At an announcement in Etobicoke today, Prime Minister Mark Carney says his government is getting tough on crime. He's planning to introduce legislation next week that will make bail more difficult to get for violent and organized crime, including violent auto theft, break-and-enter, assault, and sexual assault. It's called reverse onus bail and flips the responsibility onto the accused to prove why they should be let out on bail, rather than the current system that requires the Crown to prove why someone charged should remain behind bars before their case is tested in court.
I think it does relieve and ease the minds of victims.
Joanne Macri, director of the Child Victim Witness Program at the Kristen French Advocacy Center in St. Catharines, says this change will likely ease a lot of anxiety for victims.
There tends to be a substantial amount of fear, particularly for the witnesses or the witnesses' families who have sort of experienced this trauma. And as a result of that, they now have this fear of bumping into the individual in the community, especially in smaller communities.
But the Canadian Civil Liberties Association says there's issues with the proposed policy, as they say many of the similar offenses it applies to are on the decline.
Motor vehicle theft and break and enter, they're down around 10% since 2020 and about a third since 2010. So in our view, it doesn't really make sense to restrict bail for offenses where we actually don't see a relationship between bail and those offenses increasing.
The association would like to see the government collect more data about how many offenses are committed while the accused is out on bail. Currently, there's no federal tracking on the issue. Carney's proposed bill also imposes harsher penalties for organized retail theft, like smash and grab robberies. It would reverse a current rule that allows some sexual offenders to serve their sentence on house arrest, and would allow consecutive sentencing, so someone convicted of multiple crimes would spend longer behind bars. Meanwhile, the opposition is calling the bill a copy and paste of their proposed legislation that was voted down in the House last week. In a statement online, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre writes, "That will do nothing because Liberal bail law C-75 requires judges release rampant reoffenders at the earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions." He adds, "Scrap Liberal bail, lock up criminals." Prime Minister Mark Carney also said his government's fall budget will include the funding for 1,000 more RCMP officers and said he'll make a major announcement on border security tomorrow.